Hey, welcome back. This is episode 7 in the Homefront Harvest game development blog series. Let's dive into it. Okay, so this was a really busy week for us. The Reddit community grew. That's our Homefront Harvest subreddit. The Discord community grew. We had a bunch of folks contributing music and art. And the character that you're seeing on screen right now is one of them. This is E. Earhart, potentially Emily Earhart, one of our first characters. So she is based upon the real life Amelia Earhart. A lot of the characters in this game will be based on, but not totally biographical to, real life inspirations. And so this particular rendering was drawn by a very experienced pixel artist that I'll link the Twitter bio to in the description below. We had a bunch of music, some of which you heard at the top, produced by some of the really talented folks on the Discord, and I'll list them in the description below as well. All right, so why don't we dive into some of the Godot programming that I was able to accomplish this week, and then we'll get into some of the other research that's been doing, and then talk about what's upcoming for the game. Okay, so for this week, and it's not complete yet, but it was all things related to the inventory. And so what's nice about Godot, what I'm learning, is that you can have separate scenes and then compose all of these different scenes. So this scene is a margin container with horizontal boxes and a grid. And what's nice is that with the horizontal boxes or the grid, you can just stipulate how many different containers that you want. So if I break this down, I had 8, so I'm saying now this is 4, and so this is why this is going to 4 and 4, because I have 8 sort of inventory slots, and these are their own scenes. Right, so as I was saying, these are you can compose all of these different scenes for Godot. So if we're just looking at the very basic unit, I have an inventory grid slot, and the idea here is that I have this pretty large, this should be 22 by 22 or 20 by 20, and then I have the sprite in here. So this sprite will be swapped in and out for different game assets. So if I wanted to add a tool in here, when I pick up one of the tools, it'll fit right in that spot. And then I get a label right here, which will put the kind of text. So the numerals when we get, when you pick up this item, will appear right there. So the sprite swaps in and out, and then what we have is the basic unit of the inventory grid. So that's a scene. And then we have the grid itself, which I'm going to stipulate this is 8 columns, and so these snap here. And then if I want more, I can just add more of these inventory grid slots. So then what I need to do is make it so that the inventory appears on top of the world and is not interacting with any of the other things that the player would normally interact with. And so to accomplish that, we add a canvas layer. And then to that canvas layer, you add the inventory scene itself. So I'm calling this the bottom UI, which is composed again of that background grid, which is the individual grid slots built up into the background grid here. And then an HBox, which is just allows us to stipulate containers that go horizontally across. I'm not sure I actually need that. So if you know Godot, if you're more experienced than I am at building Godot UI, then I'd like to know if I actually need this, and maybe I'll experiment with that later on. What's odd still, and what I haven't figured out, is why I need to put it this, see the player is right here, and I have the inventory attached to the player, but my inventory is sitting way out here. I think it's because the canvas layer wants to draw this inventory at the bottom of the screen, and it just so happens to be here, so that when I play the game, it's sitting sort of in this spot. I'm eventually going to work through getting it really attached to the bottom here, but I'm able to run over, pick up these items. What I think I'd like to add is a little animation to where they come to the player. And then what I'm working on currently is getting these items to stack. So I have 1 tomato and then 2 over here. So that's not correct. That's some sort of bug that I need to resolve. But just getting the items to be to where you can pick them up and they go in the inventory, and then eventually what we'll do is we'll click and then they'll fall out of the inventory, and then maybe rearrange them here. So that is the work for the week. Doesn't seem like a lot, does it? But what this had to do was in the coding of the inventory system, how many slots we want to have, the sort of the sizes of the inventories, and then updating the grid. And we'll continue to work on that throughout the week. Okay, so another thing that happened this week is I finally made it through this really dense book, The Metaphysical Club, which will serve as some of the backdrop into what's going on during the time of the game. All right, so this book focused on 4 people: Oliver Wendell Holmes, William James, Charles Pierce, and John Dewey, really. But Dewey and Oliver Wendell Holmes being some of the more prominent figures of the time. Oliver Wendell Holmes being one of the Supreme Court justices of the United States, was fought in this war and came up with such phrases as things like clear and present danger. Then John Dewey, another leading pragmatist. So pragmatism was a philosophical thought around this time that became really popular. And essentially the idea is that since we don't know what kind of ideas will be useful to us and to society, what you want to do is get a broad brush of existing ideas, and sort of the marketplace of ideas derives from this point of time. But the ideas that you want to go after and follow through in the world are the ideas that will lead you to the more successful completion of whatever your object is. So be very practical in the kinds of ideas that you pick up and the things that you work on. This was around the time when Darwin was also, and Darwinian thought was becoming really popular, and that bled out into several areas of thought, some that aren't as popular today or thought of as dangerous as today, and eugenics is one of those. But also the marketplace of ideas is that you put all of the ideas that people have into the marketplace, and the better ideas will win out. The ideas that will progress society will sort of trump or win over those ideas that are less good. And so this philosophical tradition, uniquely American, lasted until the Cold War, and then is in some ways coming back today, where we say we don't know a lot of what ideas will work, and so we want to hear a lot of individual ideas, and so you protect things like freedom of speech, which Oliver Wendell Holmes was doing as well with the Espionage Act of 1917, which tried some people for what we might consider today's relatively minor things in terms of just voicing different ideas about how to govern and how to lead. And so the Metaphysical Club, it's really dense, but I finally got through it, and the ideas, and I'll be going back through it, will show up in the timeline of the story, because this is the thought that was going on during this period. And so if you're interested in philosophy, or if you're interested in this time period, this would be a good book to read, but it's really dense. Again, I feel like I'm saying that a few times, so just be wary. But it does cover a lot of the individuals and individuals that I didn't know about, like Jane Addams, who was a incredible activist, and Eugene Debs, who was a socialist presidential candidate around the time, who went to prison for some of the things that he did. And then other individuals that will either be in the game, or their ideas will definitely be featured in the game, like W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the first black African Americans to graduate Harvard. Okay, and so this is our Amelia Earhart character portrait, Emily Earhart, Irheart. So this will be one of the portraits that you'll see when speaking with her in the game. And so I just think it's a tremendous piece of pixel art, fantastic work by the pixel artist. And if you want to see the other characters as they come out, please sign up to the newsletter, and I'll put a link in the description. I think what I'm going to do is reveal more of the characters there until I get a website up, and then you'll be able to see more of the characters on the website. So this is just very exciting, and I'm really interested in getting the dialogue working and the NPCs into the game so we could start writing some of that dialogue and fleshing out more of the characters and their backstories and things like that. Also, a shout out to Kynseed. A lot of the pixel art in the game actually comes from this person's bundles. But when you purchase these bundle packs, what you could do is you buy them for one particular game or one particular use at a time, and then you can edit them and make them your own. And so that's what we'll be doing throughout the game, but definitely using these as a base to get us up and running and get us started, and then iterating from there. So a lot of fantastic work to these pixel artists whose job I could not do. So salute to them. Okay, and then finally another shout out for the Reddit community. We are growing, 35 members. I just remember when I just made this, so I think it's fantastic growth. And I'm so glad to see that people are interested in this game. And what I try to do is post often about things that are coming up, things that I find interesting. So there was talk about the Spanish flu and different discussions about that. There's some incredible photography from the World War I time period that I think aspects of this will bring into the game. And then this is a great place to ask questions and just discover some of the things, and then post items that you'd like to see or that you find interesting about World War I, especially in America, or just post questions, and then I'll be able to get to it and answer them for you. And then we can have a great discussion here, and then grow this community around the game, and hopefully into a really large community. I'd love to see that. So anyway, folks, this week upcoming, I really need to get moving on the inventory, hopefully finish out the prototype of the inventory, so we can move on to getting more NPCs and dialogue system into the game, and then getting the new character sprites into the game, cleaning up the pixel tiles there, and then just making it cleaner, and then getting from version 0.1 in terms of the layout to more thoughtful level designs, things like that. So please join the subreddit and the Discord community, the newsletter. Please subscribe here, and we'll be in touch. And then every Monday I plan on releasing these Devblog updates. So it's going to be a long road, but it's very exciting, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing. So thanks, folks, and we'll talk to you soon.